And turns out he lives in Prague.
Okay, we'll see. This is how we do. We bring people together.
It works.
This is how we roll.
And we are live. Okay.
All right.
Cool. Okay, so today we're going to talk about networking, and quite in a while we'll introduce our special guest. But Shaun, let's remind, as usual, people who probably have seen us already, and tell those who join us for the first time, what's Founder Fortutude, why Founder, and why Fortutude.
Well, Founder Fortutude is a series of high-impact, open-ended talks to help founders become more successful in their pursuit of victory with their startups. And no pop culture entrepreneurship speak and talk where everyone has a Ferrari and a yacht, but real talk, real knowledge, real information to help founders get to where they deserve to be. And I feel like there's too much pop culture knowledge and not enough real knowledge. So that's why we're here, to give them real knowledge that actually matters, real knowledge that they could, rely on, real knowledge that they can use to grow and become, something more than what they are right now, whether that's a Series A, Series B, no series, IPO, no PO, whatever they want to do. This is why we're here. Some of the smartest minds in the game coming together to interact, ask questions, and give our experience and our valuable knowledge to help everybody.
Thanks, Shaun. It was Shaun Gold. I'm Sandra. This is Zivile, and today we are going to talk about networking. I had this conversation with one of my portfolio startups today, and he was like, okay, next week I'm meeting this investor for lunch. And I was like, what do you mean for lunch? Like live, in person? And he said, like, yeah, I'm meeting him in person. And I said, like, wow, that's great. How do you feel about this? And he said, like, I'm actually having panic attacks because I haven't seen people live in 2 years.
So it was the live meeting and not the actual lunch, because I think I'd be more anxious about what to order. What are they ordering? What kind of food is it? Is it messy? Is it something where I have to use my hands? That'd be more anxiety filling for me. And do they validate parking? That'd be another issue. But it's more about meeting in person was the anxiety inducer.
I guess so. And talking about personal meetings, I know that Zivile was meeting some people during last month, I guess. So I would like to introduce our special guest. Zivile, can you tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm Zivile. I'm actually originally from Lithuania, but I'm based in Denmark. And I think everything what's related to marketing, communication, startups, it's what best describes me. And currently I'm working for Nexa.io. So all of you go to our website, check out what we're doing, because we're changing the way publishers and classifieds can advertise. And I'm also a co-founder of Alter State, which is an innovation platform to empower women actually to pursue their entrepreneurship career and also to move into tech. So that's briefly about me. And I've been in the Nordic ecosystem, actively involved almost 4 years, and been traveling around the different startup scenes across Europe as well. So yeah, I guess that's me. Great to meet you all. Sandra, you're muted.
Yeah, that's the phrase I heard like so many times. So, and also people call you a super connector and a super networker. And you definitely have some tips and tricks to share about this one. And as far as I understand, you also won this Nordic Ecosystem Award recently for being a super networker, right? So how is it for you? I mean, how was all this online networking when COVID started? How did you like go on without seeing people actually?
Actually, everyone says it must have been so hard for you when the COVID started, but I think for me it was a very good health check and to step back. Because I think when you're in the startup world and going to one conference after another, meeting people all the time, sometimes you just get into this never-ending loop. And in that kind of fast race, we sometimes lose the value. Why are we doing this? We don't really find time to reflect. So for me, actually, the time of the COVID really gave me a chance to step back, to pick up new projects, to a bit reflect actually, what am I doing? What do I want to change? How do I want to use the network I actually developed during those few years being actively engaged in the ecosystem? So, and when we moved actually to networking online and to working online, it was a bit easier because at the same time you can meet sometimes more people And you can, at the end of the day, really roll out very global projects. So not that local, but I think the Corona opened up the networks outside Europe, because not always in European conferences you would meet many people overseas. But what I found during this period, a lot of talents and a lot of incredible individuals who brought a lot of international horizon into my scene. So that's what it gave it to me. And then, of course, when we got back to normal, more or less, it was great to see people in person again and to actually feel the emotion, because video, it does not always necessarily gives you the emotion and that energy another person can actually exchange with you. So yeah.
So Shaun, as a super networker, how was your Corona time?
I mean, to me, it was just, another way to do business. I feel like Zooms, I never saw the point of Zoom. I still don't see the point of Zoom. For this, it's good. It's festive. We can all come together. We can have chats. But the one-on-one Zoom for people that are in the same city as me make no sense. It's like all of a sudden there was a memo that went out that we had to use Zoom or Google Meet or Blue Jeans or Uber Conference or GoToMeeting or some other software when we all had the phone the day before. And the phone was fine. We've had it for over a century. It was fine. You reach out, touch someone, pick up the phone, call, text, whatever. So I feel like video conferencing is it's here to stay for no apparent reason, especially if it's a local call. It doesn't matter. But I feel like Corona, the whole pandemic, it depends how you used it. And I wanted to use it to expand my network and, use my time wisely and still, build a network and connect with people, globally and in other vectors and verticals and industries. And, it's an easy thing to do because people want to connect. Your network is your net worth, and it's so cliche and I hate it, but it's true. And it's tough in an age to have real connections when everybody seems to be connected. There's a difference between being connected and connecting, and too many people are connected, and it's like, it doesn't matter if you have 500 plus connections on LinkedIn. Like, I don't know what's so special about that. Doesn't matter if you have 10,000 people you connected with on Twitter or Instagram or anything. I've always felt that if you have a network of 100 solid, reliable people, that 100 solid, reliable people is game changing. It's more of, quality over quantity, but everyone is more like, well, I have to connect with as many people as possible. And it's like, no, you don't, because most of those people aren't going to open doors for you. Most of those people are probably going to be annoyed by you, because everybody who has a LinkedIn profile always gets the same messages every day. People trying to sell them on something that they don't want, don't need, never heard of, and you don't even want to reply. And even though in my LinkedIn profile, I put very specifically, if you're going to connect, write me a 1-sentence message just saying why, just one sentence. And if you don't, I'm going to ignore you. And people just don't do it. So I ignore them because to me, they're not serious. And I feel like if you want to build a real network and, you want to actually, use that network to prosper and profit, it's all about the other person. It's not about you and whatever, product that you're shilling, which these days could be anything from transformational coaching to Forex trading to aluminum siding. It just, everybody's trying to shill something. And, nobody wants to be connected with the salesperson. It's the worst thing in the world to have someone try and pitch you on something. They want to be connected with someone cool, with someone that's doing something interesting, where there's a mutual synergy, where you can have a relationship and then something can grow from that. Not just like, oh yeah, I know someone interested in crypto and new coins, but sure, here, let me buy $1,000 to someone I just met on LinkedIn. No problem. I enjoy your message. But all in all, I feel like, the pandemic was how you used your time. Some people used it to launch new ventures and network and really make their days count and really take a step back and reflect and plan and strategize. And other people just kind of were like, whatever about it, and tuned into Clubhouse and tried to gain as much knowledge as possible and sit there all day, and nothing has changed. So it just depends on the individual. And if you really wanted to build like a real network and a true network and a network that becomes like a treasure that you can use for years and years to come, because having a true network is something that doesn't go away. It stays with you. And if you nurture it and you put a lot into it, it will benefit you.
The question to both of you, actually. So you mentioned meaningful connections, and you also mentioned maintaining the network of like 100 people. I mean, psychologically, it's hard. You have to like think about all those people. You have to keep those people in mind. And additionally to this, meaningful connection means actually connecting to those people from time to time and speak to them. And it's like, especially for the founders who are overwhelmed with like, marketing is not working, our CTO didn't show up and something else is happening. How do you maintain it?
Take it away, boss.
I mean, like, how to maintain it. Actually, I really, first of all, I so much can relate to what did Shaun just shared and expressed about actually nurturing the relationship, and also about, first of all, building the relationship and learning about each other. How can we support? How can we contribute to each other's network rather than just coming and look, I think I want to sell you this and that product, whatever. But that's a very good question, Sandra. How can you maintain? I think I can give one of the examples. Like, I just came back from Web Summit, which was happening 2 weeks ago, right? And we're talking about a conference, 40,000 people, which was happening after a long time in such a big, massive kind of venue. And I had few ways I could go into this during this kind of whole program, right? And it was my first Web Summit. So for the ones who don't know, it's a massive conference and you get lost easily because of so much noise. So instead of actually chasing and trying to just expand the network, what I did, I used this opportunity to actually reconnect with my network, with whom I've been in touch during the Corona times, with whom I started maybe my entrepreneurial journey. And I've just like was inviting them for a beer, for a coffee, for a quick chat. I was like, hey, would you like just to meet? I feel like I just want to see you in person and give you a hug or give you an elbow, whatever feels best and right for you. So that was one of my ways, actually. Instead of going and trying to match with everyone, I was trying to understand, okay, so whom do I know in my network? I would like to give an appreciation note. And I think that another way, the way I'm trying to do it, I always try to remember to wish a simple happy birthday, or if I see some kind of initiatives or events happening in the network, and I would think that it would be relevant for some of the startups or someone who I've been working before and I'm still in touch, I always make sure that I actually share. Because I think quite some time ago, we used to be very close, especially like in Lithuania, from knowledge sharing and experience sharing. And I'm coming from that mindset that sharing is caring, and you have actually to share, and we are here to uplift each other. So I always try to go through actually thinking, how can I help others before I try to ask for help? Because I think it just comes naturally if you develop that relationship. Shaun, I can see that you can have what to say.
It's I mean, yes and no, because eventually when you start branching out, I mean, it's all about the other person if you're trying to build a true relationship. But there's a lot of people that, it's only about themselves, and they will try and take advantage of you. They will try and just, drill you and mine you for your connections because they don't care about you and they care about what they're doing. And, it's no problem for me to make one introduction, just one for everybody. That's it. But when it comes to being like, oh, you have one, but you know so many people, can you introduce me to this person, or can you connect me with this person? Can you take me here? Then it becomes something where it's like, you clearly know this person is using you, and you have to kind of balance who is real, who actually appreciates the favor, who appreciates the connection, who appreciates the relationship, and who just wants to use you for the context. I mean, it's essentially, I know hundreds upon hundreds of investors around the world in different sectors, right? And the way I built that is, one, when I reached out to them or I got introduced, I essentially did not pitch them on anything. It was more about like, what do you invest in and what's the stupidest idea you've ever heard? Because I've got probably something that's dumber and more stupid, and then that's kind of how we started off. Because I never wanted to waste anyone's time. I never wanted to use anybody. I always wanted to just be like, listen, if something comes up that I think that would be useful to you, I'll connect you via email. It's that simple. And also, it's really not hard, especially in this day and age of WhatsApp and Telegram and text messaging and I don't know, AOL Instant Messenger and Discord, to literally hit someone up and say, Hope you're well. How's everything? It takes 5 seconds. Most people never do it. Most people will not take the time just to send a message saying, how's everything going? What's up? What are you doing? Is there anything I can help with? And I feel like that's, it's kind of a lost art. It doesn't cost, but it pays. And the success I had with my massive network in various, verticals in industry didn't come from me seeking out the one person I needed to meet because that person could open the door. It came from being connected with a lot of different cool people that knew someone else that I had no idea existed. And that person opened the door to something that was just, it wasn't even in my head. It was just, it was a relationship that came out of just me hanging out with somebody. And I feel like people have lost that art of just being cool with other people and respecting other people and being interested in other people because they're so laser focused on what they're doing. And, I don't think they realize that, they turn a lot of people off. They leave a lot of broken relationships in their wake. And people can see through it. Anybody that is a decision maker is constantly getting hit up by innumerable people. And, they can see through people that are awkward in their call or their message or anything. They can see through that. And, they don't want to deal with it. That's why a lot of people don't reply, or they give the standard not interested, or let's connect some other time, or I'm busy. And it's fine. At least people reach out and ask, but you need to be thinking of the other person. There has to be something mutually beneficial when you start this relationship. And it doesn't have to be, monetary. It could just be mutual knowledge. It could be mutual relationship. It could be a connection or two. It could be like, hey, wait, I know someone you have to meet. Takes 5 seconds, 10-second stops to put 2 emails together and say, you guys need to meet, go from there. And that opens a lot of doors. But to get to that point, a lot of people is more like, what are you going to do for me? What am I getting out of this? And that's not the way you need to be. I mean, you have to think of others. You have to think of what you can do for the other person. And you have to offer them something that, again, nothing where it's like, here's the head of Citigroup. There's my friend. You don't have to give them that, but just be like, here, I'm going to give you some feedback on this. Or I really like your logo, but I think it should be this. Or I think you should meet someone here. Just, just offer to help someone and see where it goes. It's going to go to a lot of cool places, and you'll be able to tell that this person is probably going to be using you, or this person's going to be legitimate. And if they're using you, you are under no obligation to get back to them. You are under no obligation to respond to them. You're under no obligation to be associated with them, because a lot of people, sadly, just want to use you. They want to use you for investor contacts, founder contacts, customer contacts. There's always something that they need. And, they want you to unlock the door for them because you have the connections. And right now in our age of, clout chasing, consumerism, narcissism, where they want to say, I'm connected to this person. I have a picture with this person. I was on a panel with this person. I mean, it's all meaningless. Just focus on the real relationship that can open a door and that can help you grow professionally and personally, and forget about everything else, because at the end of the day, that stuff doesn't matter. No one's going to care that you were on a panel with so-and-so 3 years from now. You're going to be the only one that's going to care. And the person you're trying to promote it to is going to be like, who? So that's what I have to say about it.
So, okay, help me out here, because you're such great networkers, both of you. But the thing is that sometimes startups aren't. I mean, you're definitely not shy to talk to someone new you see, like at the conference or somewhere. You definitely know how to start the conversation with the person, even like in case this person looks really interesting to you. Imagine some startup founders are actually networkers. Some startup founders are, well, I don't know what I should talk to this person about. Probably I won't sound interesting to this person and so on. And sometimes when I'm actually talking to founders about, okay, why do you during the networking event, why do you come up to other people and basically pitch to them? Why don't you talk to them? And the thing is, it's not that they're trying to use other people. In many cases, they just don't know what relationships. Like, any tips or tricks from you?
I guess I can start maybe. So that's also a very good question. And I noticed many times when startups, instead of coming and starting the conversation, they start poorly going to the pitch and selling themselves, which is already a red flag, because that's not how you start the conversation. So I think my suggestion would be
okay.
Sorry. Yes, elevator pitch is a great thing, but there are different ways how you can sell yourself without selling your product, right? And or your service. So my recommendation would be, for example, if you're a founder who is going right now, let's say to Slush, who is happening this December, you're going to meet a lot of interesting and cool people, right? So first of all, know who you are, because in all those events, you will be asked, so who you are, what do you do, what are you driven by? So you have to be able to answer that question. And sometimes you have to be able to answer that question by reading the audience, and which audience are you right now exposed. So that would be one thing, right? Then sometimes I do believe that what I notice that we overthink when we go to the networking events. And I know there are people who feel like they're going to have a panic attack because they have to talk to people. But I think it's the wrong angle to look at this. Think about that as connecting and actually getting to know others rather than coming there and looking at as a work. I suggest, if you really feel insecure about going and talking to people, don't think that everyone knows each other. No, it's not how it happens in the events. Usually people don't know each other and they connect. Have some questions ready, read the situation and ask. So, hi, who are you? What do you do? How do you find this event so far? Do you have any expectations from this upcoming session? Whatever, have some questions ready to initiate the conversation. And don't start straight ahead to selling yourself, right? And I think we always discuss that how important it is to start the conversation and to listen. But sometimes it's always important to know how to end the conversation and how to continue in the event, right? So we have to take into consideration that ending the conversation is not that bad. So I think, and the final suggestion would be listen. It's not about you. It's about that also another person you came to talk to. Learn the story. Here, as Shaun mentioned here, learn how you can help him actually. How do you connect? What kind of mutual interests do you have? Maybe you're working in the same vertical. No, but maybe you're from the same ecosystem in, let's say, Denmark. And for example, you are from fintech and that guy, he knows the founder of the fintech, and maybe that's the right match for you to continue the conversation or have a coffee when you're back to Denmark. So that would be those like maybe quick initial steps how you can start and understanding that it's like a tennis match. Like when one person talks, another person talks, but you're sharing the ideas instead of a monologue about you selling. What do you do, right? So I think Shaun definitely have something else to add to that.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Everybody gets nervous when they have to talk to new people. That's even myself, who has been to events as the speaker, who is always out, who's always interacting with dozens upon dozens of people. It's, even though it's second nature to me, even though it's like, it looks like it's natural, everybody is always nervous. Even I get nervous. I mean, and you have to overcome that so you can talk to people. And a lot of my major connections and a lot of my major success stories was not from me being laser focused and showing up to a specific place with a business card and a plan to talk to this one specific person. It was usually silly things that just happened. I would just make a comment to somebody, they'd laugh, and then they would, and then we strike up a conversation, and then we exchange cards, and then he would introduce me to people, and then I would introduce them to people, and that's how it goes. I mean, it's all been very silly. I mean, I got really my first break when I started my company when I was 17 years old, nightlife. I got my first break because I was complaining to someone I knew in the gym, complaining how I didn't know anybody and I wanted to work. And he literally said, oh, the person over there, you should talk to him. I'll introduce you because he can help you. And that's how I got like my first relationship a gig, because I was complaining. That was it. I was speaking at to an event for wealth managers here in Miami. And I was literally sitting in the lobby, and I just put my head down, and someone next to me said, what's the matter? And I said, I feel like I'm about to give birth to an accountant. And then everyone laughed, and we struck up a conversation, and then we exchanged cards and everything. And, that was years ago, and I still have that relationship, so it's really silly things. I got one of my first major clients because when I was in university, I was playing hangman with the kid next to me, and we became friends. And then years later, he remembered me and sent me, his boss. That was a huge, financial guy from Silicon Valley. So these things, like, that you don't have to think about it from a professional standpoint. You have to think about it from just, a personal standpoint where it's just, people are other people, and I feel like, again, they can see through the BS. They can see through like, well, I'm here to talk about, I'm here to find one. Here's the red flags. I'm here to find an investor. I'm here to talk to someone specifically about my new HR platform that, and then goes into a pitch. And it's like, okay, just say that you're here to meet people. That's it. And what do you do? And then it leads to that. But people go into the pitch. They go into, oh, can I show you a deck? that's one thing I hate about Zoom, is that immediately people would always like, let me share my screen. And you're like, no, please don't. Whatever you do, please. That was always something we have to run for the hills. But it's essentially, just it's about having a personal connection. And if people are cool, the whole thing with me is like, listen, if this person didn't annoy me and this person was actually cool and interested in what I was doing and is doing something somewhat interesting to me, I have no problem connecting them, because I'm living proof that for all the stuff I've been involved with, it's always because a lot of my customers were referrals and a lot of my new relationships were referrals. And it's always been because someone knew a guy that they should talk to, and I was the guy. That was it. It wasn't because I pitched them on something amazing and I shared my screen and they loved it. It was just because this guy's pretty cool. Maybe he can help you. And I feel like that's what it needs to be for everyone, where it's like, this guy's pretty cool. He can help you, because I didn't come out straight out the gate and ask for something stupid. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I had someone come straight out the gate. They got connected. Great to meet you. Love what you're doing. I'm excited to talk to you because I need an investor and I need a TV show. And it's like, anything else? Was that it? Is it, okay. The third one must have been fulfilled. And just like that, I just didn't even want to talk to him, and I haven't talked to him since, because he clearly just wanted to talk to me to get an investor and a TV show. I mean, none of which was like, come on, like, who just comes out and says that? Like, I know nothing about him. I know nothing about the business. I know nothing about the Hollywood aspirations. And it's just like, oh, well, you're connected. You can plug me in. And it's like, we could all plug people in, but it's like, should we plug them in? Because one thing when having these relationships and with building a true network is that, you are a reflection of your connections. I don't want to introduce someone to you that is a complete idiot that's going to make me look bad. The last thing you want is like, oh, hey, Shaun gave me your email and blah, blah, blah. And then it becomes like a thing where it's the most annoying, person that doesn't leave you alone. And now you'll never respond to anyone I send to you, introduce you to, even to me. So you have to kind of be, careful, because you want to be respectful of the other person's time. That's one thing I feel like, people, again, you have to get out of yourself, and you have to be respectful of the person that because you don't want to annoy them. You don't want to waste your time. You don't want to ruin the relationship. You want to think and go, should I really introduce this person and try and help them out? Or is this person going to ruin everything that I've built? And if they're going to ruin everything that you've built, it's not worth it. I don't care what they're doing. Some people are just terrible. That's what it comes down to. Some people are just horrible. Some people, you just have to run from the hills and not look back. And that's that's human nature. That's the way it is. Not every single person you're going to meet is going to be nice and normal. They're probably going to be insane. They're probably going to be annoying. They're probably not going to be someone that you want to even be connected with, let alone making introductions to. So it's something that you have to, as you build a network and as you actually use your network and profit from your network and create your network, you want to have it where it's something that you keep in mind. Again, it's better to have 100 cool people than 5,000 nameless people that you don't know of. I mean, that there's an old saying that, 80% of your business comes from 20% of your contacts. That's what it is, And I'm seeing it. I see it with my newsletter. I see it with, my marketing. I see it with the investors. Yes, I know tons of investors, but there's like a core group of 8 that love to hear from me. And it's like, send me everything. And there's others that take 3 weeks to get back to me that tell me that, as always, it's too early and it's not interested. But, you have to find that core group, and you have to cultivate that, and you have to nurture it. And there's a quote, and I forget who said it. Forgive me. If you've been to these, I know a bazillion quotes. But it says the best way to build your fortune is to convince others that it is in their benefit to promote yours. So that's kind of what being a true networker is about. But it goes both ways. Help other people build their fortune. It all comes back. We're all in the same sinking ship, I like to say. And it's the only thing you can do is tend to your fellow passenger.
I'd like to support you, because I just remember 3 crazy stories about networking from different conferences. One of them probably being web summits, when we're just, there is some after parties, and I'm out there at the bar chatting to some guy, blah, 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 for half an hour. I didn't even know he was a startupper. We weren't actually chatting about what he's doing, just about everything, ecosystem and the stuff. And then at some point I was like, yeah, and what is it exactly that you're doing? And he described what he's doing. He wasn't of any interest to us, as an investor, but he said yeah, I'm raising this Series A now from probably some American investor. And then it just struck me. I was like, oh, wait a second, I know who to introduce you to, because definitely they're looking for something like you. And it was a match, and it was a hit. and he raised like several millions. Like being the startup from Estonia, he raised several millions from American investor in just like several months. So, but it was like normal conversation. And on the contrary, there was this conference, and I'm going to the toilet, I'm sorry. And I'm having this investor page. And once I'm out, there are 3 startups literally hunting me. And they just jumped on me and started pitching. And I was like, and I was so confused for a moment, because like it's definitely not the place where you expect. I mean, you do expect to make some startups there, but probably not with the purposes of pitching to you. And I was like, yeah, hello, excuse me, can you give me some privacy and the stuff? So needless to say, like I never continued conversations with those startups. It's just like for startups, just for you to remember, everyone you're connected with are actually people, same as you are. So if something like what you're doing to people is, if someone would be doing this to you, would it be comfortable for you? I mean, if you're standing out there at the event and there is someone who's coming up to you and starting to pitch you or to sell you something, so would you rather run away, or would you continue like this interesting conversation with this person? And everyone, as Shaun said, like everyone is kind of a little bit scared and a little bit anxious about coming to people and talking to new people. That's just our nature. Like nothing comes like naturally. Like no one is waking up, like, I mean, every morning saying, oh, I would love to meet 100 new people today whom I've never seen before. It just doesn't work like this. But when you start seeing like networking as not as kind of valuable business connections, but like as a personal approach, as people to people, this is something that it actually starts working out. Shaun, that's how we met, right? We chatted about like so much stuff, I guess.
We chatted about everything but startups, and now here we are, which is a good chance for me to talk about my startup and pitch you. And let me share my screen, and you can click right here. We can crowdfund it. No, I mean, like, listen, some people, they don't have the wherewithal to understand how, just how annoying they can be. I mean, and how just, and how not, they just don't know how to approach people. It's all about them. I mean, I had a call once where, someone he was trying to start like a venture studio. And then first off, I find out he's like 19. His venture studio is all like the college startups, and within like 3 minutes he's like, are you going to invest or not? And I was like, you're not old enough to vote. I don't think I'm going to even open the network or anything. It was just not the way to approach it. I mean, just people again, they're too into their head. They have social media telling them how amazing they are. They have, all their true believers saying that they can do anything and do everything. And it's just, essentially they have to think about the other person. I mean, getting someone to support your startup or whatever endeavor you have, even you, just getting someone to support you is very difficult, because we live in an age of distraction. Every single person is doing their own things. Everybody's getting hit up with a million things. On any given day, I'm getting hit up to upvote on product hunt for something I don't even know, follow a Twitter page or a LinkedIn page, or, vote here, or there's just so many things that are coming through. And most of them, I have no idea what they're about. And people, they don't care. They don't care about the other person. And there's never a reciprocation of, oh, if there's anything I can do for you, just ask. That's very rare to hear. But you also have to be careful for that, because I've had situations where I've done a favor for someone, or, they've done a minor little minuscule favor for me, and then they ask for the world, where it's kind of like, hey, I bought your book for $4.99 on Amazon. Can you give me $1,000 of free stuff? So you have to be careful of that.
Coming back to online networking, because I wanted, Zivile, go on.
I just kind of flashed back to one of the situations when I was running more startup programs, and exactly how do you approach someone who is maybe managing the network. And I do remember literally 2 startups and 2 founders who were the opposite situations. How did they approach the pitch competition application process? So I remember I'm sitting late evening, 8 or 9 p.m., working on the final selection and screening of the startups, whom should actually join the pitch competition. And I get this call. First of all, it's very late. I don't know the person. Of course, my number was available, but I think there is a common sense when if you don't know a person, when you should call, right? And I'm getting this call to my phone. So look, how can I get into a pitch competition? We're really good. We want to get into a pitch competition. I was like, good evening for you too. And long story short, I was just getting this pitch straight to my phone without knowing to whom am I talking, right? And I was like, wow, that was arrogant. It's super late. And I don't even want now to look into applications, but of course, professionalism was here. So I looked into application. It was missing some information. And then actually 2 days later, I have received an email and then a follow-up call during the daytime of a founder who was asking, look, I have some questions about the applications. Maybe you can help me. We're very interested in this pitch competition, but we're not sure if we're a good fit, etc., etc., etc. So instead of actually pitching his own idea, the person reached out to me to get some clarification, reached out to me not at night, but actually during the daytime. And it was a very beautiful kind of conversation. And actually their startup was the perfect pitch for our competition, and they went through. So that's a very good example how important it is to understand that we're all humans, that you are not more important than somewhere else. We are all important, and don't try to put yourself into a position like I have the best startup idea. Try to build that relationship and read the environment when it is appropriate time, for example, to reach out to someone, and what would be the best way to do that. So that's like kind of, yeah.
And you still remember those founders, right? I mean, as people.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, like I'm laughing, but it's like you understand, like your vibe attracts your tribe. So it's very easy then to screen like if that person is part of your tribe or not. But then of course, if you're running some kind of initiative like you are running, Sandra, right, accelerator and batch programs, you want that they would be a good fit as well into the ecosystem you're building around you, right? You don't want someone come in there and be only like arrogant and not respecting. But of course, it depends on the business, but it's still.
It's common sense. I mean, it's
common sense.
It's common. I know you're trying to be very polite. It's a very European thing. I'm going to be blunt. It's common sense. If you think it's late, don't call someone, okay? Or send them an email to get back to you. And be gracious. Just please, thank you. Be humble about it. Like you're asking someone for help. It just that's what it is. Like if you don't understand common sense and you don't have common manners and you don't have decency and you don't have decorum, then like why do I want to deal with you? Like there's no point. And trust me, I've worked with some of the worst people in the world. Like you don't want to deal, like it's not worth it. At the end of the day, it's not worth it. What is worth it is finding cool people to have in your network, cool people to be connected to, and cool people to work with. And it's the hardest thing to do. It's the hardest thing to find other intelligent people that are mindful and respectful of your time and you, and are not about them, themselves. And it's getting harder and harder because, people have been groomed in social media. And, the joke I always use is that Galileo was persecuted for saying, that the earth revolved around the sun. And now you'll be persecuted for telling someone that the earth doesn't revolve around them, and that's just the kind of the way the world is going. So people, people need to be cool, and you can't teach how to be cool. I feel like you even if you sit them down and tell them something, they're still going to have in their mindset these stupid memes, these meme minds and these Instagram ideals of how they're going to have 20 Ferraris and a yacht, and they're going to be the next Facebook, which they're not, and they're going to be the next Google, which they're not, and they just don't care, because to them it's just like you're a tool. That's what it is, when the actuality is like, hold on, you're the tool, we're the machine, and you need the machine to keep going. So there's just a lot of people like that. So you have to, you have to kind of screen.
Shaun, do you remember that we talked, I wanted to look from the other angle. You remember we talked about the founders and the self-confidence and things like that. And founders looking for, they're working 24/7, they're pretty much consumed by their products. And when they go out there and they actually try to, build new network, be it online or offline, sometimes they just configure that they're valuable, they're cool at something, they're like great professionals in what they're doing, but they just don't feel so. They don't feel themselves valuable and important, especially at the very early stage of the start. So what do they do here? I mean, any tips and tricks how to overcome this feeling? Because, starts at very early stage, first you're coming to the investor like, oh, investor.
Yeah, it's an actual angel. God. It's an angel from heaven. Saint Michael's going to come down from the heavens and give me a check.
Yeah. then there is the second year, and then there is the third year, and the third year the startup is coming to the investor and said like, well, no, probably you're not the right type of the investor for us. We would be looking for someone else. But from this ground zero to this like 3 years or 4 years, it's some time where those founders, they have to network, they have to do something. So how do they kind of overcome that they are not, being interesting to anyone?
Well, there's two things. One, it's like lions circle the hesitant prey. People can tell if you're not, if you're not confident, and they're definitely not going to write a check in someone that's not confident. You have to be bold. There's either boldness or there's being timid, and timid does far more damage always. You have to have the confidence to take a chance, and you have to have the belief that what you're doing, you're the one to do it. You're capable. And it doesn't come around the first time. It might take multiple failures to do, but people need to be resilient enough, especially founders. You have to be resilient enough to go forward and, know that what you're offering has value. If you didn't, you wouldn't be offering it. And you have to just be confident in your own abilities. That's what it is. If you can't pitch yourself and promote yourself, then it's kind of like the business. It doesn't matter, because they're investing in you. I know it's all about the idea and the team and the blah and the users and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, is this someone we can count on? Is this someone we can bet on? Is this someone that's a trained killer? Is this someone that's going to go forward and just keep going no matter what? Because that's what it needs to be. And founders need to have that mentality. They need to have that mindset to keep climbing and to believe in themselves. And two, there's something called the Jonah complex, in psychology, which is the fear of one's own greatness. So, it's a real thing. Everyone's, imposter syndrome, forget it. It's a Jonah complex. This is what was coined like 50 years ago. And essentially the Jonah complex, you're evading your own potentialities. You're evading your own destiny because of how you're going to make other people think, how you're going to look, how you're going to feel. And you have to put all that aside because, there's a quote from the Hagakure, which basically says, if you think that you're inferior to doing something, you're going to be on that road very soon. And I feel like that's as true as when it was written hundreds of years ago as it is now. And you have to have this inner belief in yourself, and you have to overcome all this, all the trepidations, because everyone has trepidations. There's not a single person that doesn't have any trepidations when they send out a deck, when they approach someone, when they're trying to pitch, when they're thinking if they're capable of doing something. You have to overcome that. I feel like, there's it's something where there's a quote by Alfred Adler, which says, there's no real thing as courage. There's just, there's engaging in risky behavior. It's the more you engage in this risk-taking behavior, the more courage you essentially bring about. But it's not something that you can have and hold on and bring it, and keep in your pocket or summon on an app. It's something that you just have to keep going in this behavior that is, the other people would never do it. But that's what being a founder is all about. It's about, doing something that the multitude won't want to do. They don't want to engage in that behavior because it is scary and it is risky, and you do throw everything on the line and you do gamble on yourself. And again, if you don't think you're going to win and you don't believe in yourself, why should they? That's why you have to have this strong, I don't want to say vision, but you have to have this strong idea of what you want to do, what you want to bring about, and you have to be the person to do it. And everyone's capable of doing it, but they have to get over the trepidations. And I feel like they have to make the choice for growth over safety. And, safety is something that everyone chooses every day because it's nice to be safe. It's warm. It's fun. You don't have to deal with anything. But if you want to grow, you're going to have to go into this, this zone, which is just dangerous. Forget the comfort zone. This is the abyss. You have to go put yourself out there and see what happens. It's not, you might get results immediately, but most of the time the results are going to come years down the line. And I feel like people need to keep engaging in, this risk-taking behavior and this growth-seeking behavior, and they have this, this mindset to do it because, if they're hesitant about it, they're just going to cause more problems than it's going to solve.
Actually, I wanted also Zivile's opinion on it because she's running this thing which is called Alter State for the female founders who normally require a little bit more encouragement. And when you're teaching them, when you're helping them to launch their products at the very early stage, especially given the fact that, as we know on the market, like 1% of the female founded startups are getting the investments, and then 86% goes to all male teams. So they don't think about themselves as about a very successful founders from the very beginning. Let's put it like this. So what's your advice? What are your tips and tricks? How do you teach them?
Yeah, I think it's like I really like the points of that you have to be bold, first of all, if you go also talk to the investors. But I think we should start from the grassroots, that first of all, you have to work on what solves the problem and what you also genuinely believe in. Because if you don't believe what you are creating, no one else will. There is no family members who will support you in this. They will support because you're doing something cool, but they won't push your ideas so much up if you don't have belief in that yourself. So I think that's where the branding steps in. And when we're preparing founders to pitch, so we always also focus on the personal brand, right? Personal and company brand, so that you understand what are you standing for, you understand your values, you understand that how to look for that also matching investor if you want to do the fundraising, and what value you can offer as well for that investor. So that would be the first thing, that we're focusing also on helping to build the confidence through practicing. Another thing Shaun also mentioned about that you have to keep going. You will be rejected. You have to be resilient, and you need that extra power and extra strength actually to both to build your network and also to talk to investors as well. But you have to be confident talking to them first of all. When you hear no, you try again. And I think that all those activities, when it comes to the network, is also like a muscle training. The first time you approach a person or maybe investor, you have no idea how to behave. Sometimes we always think, oh, investors are gods because if they're gonna write us a check, my life gonna change. It's not gonna change. You will get more obligation.
Don't encourage them to think that they're gods.
No, but I'm not encouraging. That's what I'm saying.
They'll take that literally. They'll take it literally. We have enough of that going around. Continue,
but that's the thing. Everyone thinks that, but investors, they're not gods, and we are here on the mutual relationship and mutual conversation where we try to find the match, right? So that's why we did actually one of the first reverse VC pitch competitions a few years ago, actually to put investors to pitch for the founders, and then founders would give the feedback, and then we would do the matchmaking, right? So that's the thing. Be bold. Have your why are you doing what you're doing? What are you standing for? And don't give up after the first no. And the way we prepare the women, we practice, and we really, really practice from the pitches and from actually understanding what kind of the core business they're working on. And then after some time, you gain that confidence after getting some no's.
I actually like this one about like having a muscle of, talking to other people, engaging with people, public speaking and everything. I mean, I think it happens like this with everyone. I was having this workshop recently and there was like one of another speakers, and she came up to me and she said like, wow, your workshop is so cool and you're so cool and like you're so confident on the stage and everything. And I said like, yeah, 400 or 500 workshops like over the last 5 years. I mean, it's not because I'm cool naturally. It's not because like, I'm so great. It's just because it's like practice. I mean, you don't go out there to the stage and play the piano when you see the piano for the first time in your life, right? And but at some point in 2 years, when you practice regularly, you go out there and play something. Same with investors, basically. When you go out there for the first time, it's probably going to be a disaster. When you go out there like in 2 years, the investors would be treating you quite differently. You would be treating yourself quite differently, because the most important thing is not how they are treating you, but how you are treating yourself. It actually gives you the confidence. And how do you feel about yourself in this situation? Shaun, by the way, we missed the Q&A. You haven't said anything about the Q&A this time.
Oh, sorry. I'm so excited. Yeah, if you have any questions, now's the time. Put them in the chat. We'll answer them all, or as many as we can. We already have a question. Okay. So before I even finish saying it, but it's ask your questions. We've got some extremely talented, smart people, and it's not our first time doing it. Going on your last. This is not our first rodeo. So we will answer all your questions to the best of our abilities. So feel free to ask. And just going before we go into the first question is, yeah, there's a process and the process sucks. That's what it is. The process is terrible. The process of speaking and then being nervous and having horrible speeches and pitching and having horrible pitches and hours, if not days or months of self-doubt. Why am I doing this? Should I go back to, my old career? What am I wasting my time on? My friends are on vacation and I'm here working. I mean, that's all part of the process, and you kind of have to fight because the climb comes after the descent. You have to kind of go into the abyss and then climb out, and everybody has to deal with it. People don't like to talk about it. I like to talk about it, but people don't like to talk about it. But it's something that everyone goes through, and everyone has their own failures, everyone has their own faults. And there's a quote from Socrates that says, be kind to everyone you meet. Everyone is fighting a hard battle. And, that's kind of what it is. Everyone is fighting a hard battle. Every single person has to deal with their own issues, and, nobody's perfect, and everybody has their own dreams that they're trying to make, reality. So with that being said, okay, first question from Max. What up, Max? Do you all have any advice on walking the tightrope between confidence in your innovation and coming off as overconfident or too good to be true when seeking early stage funding? I'm going to say when early stage funding, if you can let me know, pre-seed, seed, no ground. I'll just assume it's the earliest stage. Seed, okay. Take it away, experts.
Zivile, want to try?
I mean, you have to read the audience. That would be my answer. You have to understand for whom are you pitching, and it's easier if you're in person, I guess, and when you can read the atmosphere, but I'm not sure if there is a secret sauce for how to balance out between being too overconfident. Well, don't promise that you will fly them to the moon if you cannot really do the moon part, and don't overpromise. I think that would be my advice. When you overpromise and then you go to the further process, usually then you will drop out because you cannot deliver the pitch you delivered for the investors, right? So be true, but believe in what you are creating. It's very for me, it's very easy to read when someone is over pushing their idea and they're trying to sell more than they can do, and then it's a red flag if I'm in the decision in this kind of opinion board, right? So tell what you are doing and tell that it's working if it's working.
Well, for me as an investor, it's not about confidence, not just about confidence. I'll start asking you tough questions anyway. And if you say that you're deep tech, you'll get a lot of questions on how your data sets are working, on how this is happening and this is happening. And it doesn't matter if you're confident or not confident. If you're trying to bullshit me, I'll hear it. That's it, and it will happen with any investor. So in order not to be overconfident, don't try to bullshit an investor ever. You never know who you're talking to, even if you did your homework, because sometimes you don't expect from some general investor any knowledge in your industry, and you're trying to use all these buzzwords like, I don't know, deep tech, AI, blah blah blah, and something, and then you're getting like 5 tough questions that you can't answer. And that's the end of the conversation. If you don't know something, okay, that's a very good question. I'm not ready to give you an answer right now. I have to think about it. I'll follow up with an email or something like this. But never try to bullshit. People can see it and can hear it.
Yeah, and you have to understand, investors, especially if they're angel syndicates or VCs, they don't really write a lot of checks, maybe a few checks a year. And the fact that you have a meeting with them shows that there's an interest because they get lots of it. I have friends that are managing directors of major funds, and even if I have a warm introduction for them, they'll be like, they have to go through the process on our website and fill out everything, put the video up, put the deck up, answer 1 million questions, because that's kind of how they vet and if this person's real or not. So if you get a meeting with them, you have to respect their time. You have to be bold about it, but you have to also understand that, listen, this could be the greatest thing ever because I'm solving a problem. They have money, capital to deploy. They're looking for good startups to give it to so they can make a large return on. I can be that startup. I can do it. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to go in confident, but I'm also going to kind of keep it down, keep it down to earth. I'm not going to say I'm going to become the next Google or the next Facebook, because when people say that to me, I just turn off because I know they're not going to become the next Facebook or next Google unless Mark Zuckerberg starting a new Facebook. Unless it's him saying I'm going to be the next Facebook, I'll believe it. But it just people they shoot too high. A lot of times it might be the sleepy company that has a great return, that's doing great business that you never heard of. There are plenty of companies out there and you would never hear of them unless you read them in like the Today in Tech newsletter or something. They have a weird name. You never heard of them, but they have already 800,000 users or 1 million users. And they're just doing their thing. And I feel like if you can just be a company in your niche and do your thing and do it well, that's what it's about. It's not about becoming, the next player. Well, Netflix, they don't really have a lot of good content. So I'm going to be the new Netflix. It's like, okay, well, that already is kind of like doomed to failure, but sure, go ahead. Pitch us on your new Netflix. So you kind of have to just, it comes, there's like a fingertip feeling inside where it's like, I'm going to feel the room. I'm going to look at them. I'm going to see how it goes. And above all, don't bore them. I've had so many calls that I've been on, and maybe it's because they were on Zoom, but they're just horrible presentations. They're just reading off a PowerPoint, like reading off the PowerPoint. We can all read. It's not like large paragraphs. These are literally 3 bullet points that are 1 sentence each. We can all read. Here's a slide. Here's what we're doing. We don't need to read it slowly. We can get it. So it's about just respecting everyone's time. And and there's the lost art of being gracious. I mentioned it earlier, but even if they don't want to invest, even when you get that biting rejection email that we really loved it, but it's just not for us right now, blah, blah, just thank you so much for your time. Can I keep in touch with you? This was so helpful. Thank you. Just be gracious about it because, people aren't gracious anymore. And it's just kind of like every time someone rejected me for something I did, either creative or startup wise, I always gave them a really nice thank you message because I understood that they took time out of their busy day to talk to me, to read what I sent them, and to actually give it some thought, and that's the most, the precious commodity was their time. So people need to respect that time and respect the other people, especially if they're investors, because, you might go back to them in a year or two when it's not so early, when you do have a lot of stuff to show and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I remember that. We looked at that. It was way too early, but now look at them. Let's look at it again. So that's something I also just want to really kind of drill into everyone's head. It's just be respectful, be gracious, and be cool.
I really like this thing about don't bore them, because a lot of startups, what they're trying to use, they're trying to look smart, because it's really cool to look smart, especially it's really cool to look smarter than the investors. I even hear it sometimes from startups at the pitch training, and I said, like, what are all those words in your slides? Because I probably understand every third word or something. And they say yeah, because we're smart and we don't want dumb investors. And I say yeah, basically the problem is that dumb investors, they have money and you have your pitch deck. That's the difference. So
we can look up those words together. It's part of the pitch. We can look it up together.
And about being boring, I think if you're trying to explain something, you have a room full of people who expect to hear something about you, and they expect to hear something not about the complications of complicated technology that you want to develop or something like this. They expect to hear something about your products, about the markets, about the money, first of all, about the money, and about your team. And when you start all this, boring stuff, many startups think that, okay, now they will remember us. Normally when investors hear this, for the first 30 seconds that we are doing blah, 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 very complicated, blah, blah, blah. After this, what they do, honestly, they open Facebook. That's basically it. And then they're like, yeah, no questions to the startup.
Could be worse. They could open TikTok. So,
Oh yeah. Sorry, not my generation. Yeah.
I think that's that. Take what you can get. Yeah, but that's true. Exactly. Just you have to come off strong, but you can't come off, too arrogant, and you can't come off to, oh, I'm smarter than you. And you just want to be able to, you have an objective. That objective is to get funding, but it's also to help them choose your company to fund, because they have to deploy capital. That is how everything works. They make an investment, and in X amount of time, they get back more than they put in. So help them solve that problem. Help them, champion you. A lot of the funds I'm seeing now, and a lot of just the groups, they don't want to give money. They want to have an active role. They want to come in. They want to, showcase it to their network. They want to plug them in. I mean, it's game changing, and it's much better to have someone like that than someone that gives writes a check and says, go on, hopefully good luck. Maybe I'll get my money back. Maybe I won't. Statistically, I probably won't. But, essentially it's about you. Is this someone I can take into meetings? Can I bring this person in with me? So that's essentially one thing I want people to keep in mind, because I do it for a lot of people too, where it's essentially, here, you got to meet someone because I think, this is so cool. And here, come in and do this. So it's something that definitely I want everyone just to be cognizant of, yeah. So any other questions? Now's your time to ask, because we're coming up to the end of it. And we do want to answer them. And we've got the best people in the game right now hosting, and we'll answer everything, no matter how ludicrous it might seem, because we've gotten some ludicrous questions in the past and we've answered them regardless.
Okay, just while we're waiting for some questions, if any, just small comments. I remember the one startup, what they did? Every time they had the meeting with the investor, like over the course of this meeting, they said like, okay, so we are the experts in this area. So if you ever need our advice on this, or if you ever need like any connections in this industry, any expertise, we are here for you. We'd be happy to do this. And what happens at the end of the day, that all the investors started recommending them actually to each other as experts in a certain area. And at the end of the day, like they had this rumor on the market, oh, those guys who are like having the startups, they're actual experts like in this area. And they got funded, of course, but they didn't do it like on purpose. They did it because they actually wanted to help. They had something to provide, and they were like just offering this. So quite an example of good networking.
Exactly.
Zivile?
Yeah, I have one more, maybe kind of add up on the Shaun's idea about this thanking the investor, because you never know when you're going to meet him again. So I think it's very much in any situation when you're a founder. So sometimes you apply for some programs, sometimes you meet other founders, you get rejected a lot, you are bounced into the wall. I think it's really important just to get back, to thank, sometimes to ask for feedback, and to keep that connection, because you got rejected because you are not a good fit, right? Or maybe there is some feedback for you how you can improve, or let's say if you're raising funds, you're a pitcher or something, and you never know when you're going to meet again, because the ecosystem is so small. So it's better to connect rather than reject yourself that connection, right? So I really like the thought, and I thought like it's very important to highlight that it's about the mutual relationship and it's not about one way.
It is, indeed it is. So Shaun, probably you could wrap it up. Thanks.
Yeah, well, I'll end it with
today.
a story. I'll end it with a story.
Okay.
That's how I got one of my largest clients ever. Okay. And it came from one of the worst experiences ever. And it goes back to being gracious and being respectful and having good manners. Is that I had someone that was very, very upset with when I was working one of the biggest nightclubs in the world, and they were very upset with the reservation, not because of me, but because someone else tried to supersede me. And as we all know, in startup game or business, people always like to poach your clients, and they took out their frustrations on me, and how, it was proper decorum doesn't let me share what they said to me, and how it was just a harangue of some of, very high net worth people, financiers, investors, all that, just, belittling me, the worst things ever. But because I was cool and respectful and just handled it professionally and was gracious about the whole thing, a few minutes later, they cooled down, and the main guy said, I've never seen anyone handle, the insults and the behavior in such a professional manner. And it was like, well, no, listen, no problem. Things happen. Again, we're all human. I understand you're unhappy. I'll make it up to you. We'll see what we can do this together. And for years after that, they became one of my largest clients, and it was because I just was respectful, because I understand people are mad. I understand that people have genuine, issues. And if I can try and, alleviate those issues, I will. But, nowadays, I feel people are so short fused that if someone were to even look at them the wrong way or slight them in such a way, that they'll automatically pounce and respond, and they'll ruin the relationship. So we have to kind of, especially when it comes to building a network, it's just being gracious and being nice and saying, I understand whatever I can do. And, and I'll do my best to help you. And if I can, I will. And I feel like it's a lost art. And I feel like people really need to get out of their own head, get out of their own ego, think of the other person and see what we can do to come together to solve the problem, because you never know the relationship that's going to result, so whatever minor momentary victory you might have from yelling back at someone or insulting them or getting angry pales in comparison to what you can do by going the opposite direction and trying to solve it and being gracious and keeping that relationship alive, because it's a small world, especially startup world. It doesn't seem small, but it is small. Especially VC world doesn't seem small, but it is small. And everyone kind of knows everybody. So you don't want to have a reputation as the guy that everybody hates and the startup that is the most annoying startup with the worst problem. You don't want to be that. So again, be cool with one another, be gracious, and be patient. I feel like that's the best way that I can end it. And you will have a true treasure of a network that you can build and have for years to come.
Thanks for the session. Thank you, Zivile. Thank you, Shaun. And I guess we see each other in 2 weeks as usual for the new session. And there would be a link on our YouTube channel as usual, so you can share it with your friends.
Thanks everyone for coming. I expect everyone to start networking, but real networking.